For some weird, unexplainable reason, the Muslim diaspora living in the West still believes that by threatening those people who criticize Islam is somehow going to bode well for them. I don't know what gives them the idea. Maybe our politicians, our institutions, our judges, our activists, and our entire lefty political class has somehow emboldened them, maybe, by paying lip service to words like Islamophobia. Right here in Australia, our Prime Minister imported an Islamist from the UK to help him draft a strategy to combat Islamophobia. It didn't go down too well, needless to say, but they're doing the same thing in the UK. The Keir Starmer government tried to introduce de facto blasphemy laws in the name of countering Islamophobia, but it kept getting rejected because I have always said this, and this is the reason why I fell in love with Western civilization. There's one thing that stands out when you compare the West with the rest of the world. There are some other great civilizations, China, Japan, the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, the UAE. A lot of these countries, a lot of those other civilizations have tall skyscrapers. They also have good economies, good standards of living. But there is one thing that sets the West apart from the rest of the world: free speech. It is very important. Just 2 words: free speech makes a huge difference when it comes to understanding Western civilization. And this is the reason why this civilization allowed criticism of its own sacred philosophies or ideologies. There are no holy cows in the West. Even some of the most revered figures, like Jesus, for example, can be criticized, can be mocked. Some Christians may not like it, but they have developed tolerance over many centuries. But now you import people from the Middle East who have had their own trajectory of evolution. They grew up over many centuries believing that you can't criticize Muhammad. You can't criticize Islam. Now, you bring in those people into the West. The West, for some reason, thought that these people are going to integrate and assimilate, and they're going to understand Western values, and they will adhere to those values as opposed to the values of their ancestors. But lo and behold, surprise, surprise, that's not how things worked out. Let me show you this British legend, John Cleese. If you don't know, you should know. I think Ricky Gervais, John Cleese. Yeah, these are the only 2 names when I think of comedic geniuses. He is to comedy what David Attenborough is to nature documentaries or nature in general. Out of the blue, in his advanced stage, since March of this year, he started criticizing Islam. And that did not go down well with the usual suspects.
John Cleese, the actor from what's the
Monty Python.
Yeah. He said something recently that got him in trouble. Here's what he said. He said, I see I am being ritually insulted for my support of this man. He's talking about Rupert Lowe, of what's going on with Britain. The uneducated call me racist.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a racist. I'm a culturalist.
That's what I said.
I believe that some cultures are better than others. I prefer cultures that do not advocate stoning, pederasty, wife beating, female genital mutilation, and beheading opponents. Call me old-fashioned.
He's very well educated on Islam. This is why people like me feel like giving ourselves a pat on the back. I don't know if he knows me or not. Probably doesn't know me. But I'm sure at some point he would have seen videos by anti-Islam educators, people who are knowledgeable of Islam and are not Muslims. He would have seen their videos or posts at some point about Islam. David Wood might have educated him. The apostate prophet might have educated him. Or there are literally hundreds of people who've been talking about the bad practices of Islam that have been introduced into the West. So John Cleese has been posting tweets like this since March, as I said. Let me see this. Here he's talking about Sadiq Khan. Does this little man not understand that Islam is a very aggressive belief system, threatening death to anyone who does not convert to Islam or criticizes Islam? The Buddhists, the Taoists, the Scottish Presbyterians, the Hindus and the Sikhs and the Confucians and the Catholics don't go around shouting about beheading people they disagree with. Is this too much for your tiny little brain to take in? He's talking about this one. When this plant of the Islamist, Sadiq Khan, was complaining about Britain becoming too unsafe for Muslims. British Muslims are living in fear, yet they still keep coming to Britain in their thousands. I don't think Jews were lining up to go into Nazi Germany. Does that make sense? No, they weren't. But Muslims are coming in their thousands. Just a couple of days ago, another 230 Muslim fighting age Muslim men entered the UK. I'm not going to bore you with his video. He was just basically saying British Muslims are scared. Let me show you one more tweet of John Cleese on, that was March 18. I don't want to be conquered and have to bow down to Islam. Does that cause offense to Muslims? And again, sorry, let me go back a little bit. I said he might have heard about Islam from non-Muslim people who are educated on Islam, like me or David Wood or something else. No, actually, no. I forgot the most important ingredient in this recipe of Islam education. There are literally thousands, if not tens of thousands of videos by Muslims telling what they're going to do to the West. So there is no better educator about Islam to non-Muslims than truthful Muslims. Here, this guy's talking about how he's going to conquer the West. And John Cleese is saying, I don't want to be conquered by Islam. Apparently, we cannot allow any criticism of Islam. Suggesting the wife beating might be wrong is a phobia, like fear of spiders or dogs. Sorry to have to say this. The British do not like the kind of diversity that intends to take over Britain and kill any infidel that does not convert to Islam. Is that hard to understand, silly little man? So that was John Cleese for you. And as I said, he has posted like this maybe over a dozen times about Islam since March. Maybe a little bit more than a dozen times. So obviously that hasn't been going down well with Muslims. Now, meet Roshan M. Saleh, unarguably Britain's biggest Islamist propagandist. He's different from Muhammad Hijab and Ali Dawas of the world, because Muhammad Hijabs and Ali Dawas, they act in independent capacity. They don't act like a media outlet. But Roshan M. Saleh is the chief and editor of this Islamist publication called Five Pillars, where they claim to adhere to Britain's editorial or press's editorial or ethical policies. They claim. But this is what they say. Watch this. This is what he tweeted back in 2023. And here he is giving an explicit threat to critics of Islam. He's learned since then. This is why he now issues veiled threats, not explicit threats like this. Any criminals or thugs out there who are thinking of targeting Muslims should realize that Muslims are extremely influential in British prisons. By extremely influential, he means that Muslims have taken over British prisons. And I wonder why that is. They are such upstanding citizens, aren't they? So if you're convicted of a crime, there is a good chance you may get a double punishment. I think this was directed at Tommy Robinson when he was going to jail, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me on this. But this was a clear message to critics of Islam that, hey, if we get you on Islamophobia or some racial charge, you're going to get double justice. He was criticized by his own fellow Muslims that, hey, bro, you said the quiet part out loud. Don't do it like that. Don't say things explicitly like this. So he deleted that tweet, but not before we took a screenshot. So now he's come after John Cleese. And this is how he's come after John Cleese. Look at this. The prominent Islamophobe John Cleese is to tour the UK in September and will visit cities with large Muslim populations such as Birmingham, Manchester, Bradford, and Leeds. He's giving a wink, wink. Hey, guys, he's coming to your cities to do his shows. What are you going to do? I reckon you should do something. Hey, I'm not saying anything, but you should do something. Wink, wink. And look at this. This tweet has been seen by nearly 1 million people. Yeah. And he only got 279 likes. So obviously I don't know whatever he's trying to achieve. He's probably, for some reason, is no longer popular amongst Muslims because it should have had a lot of likes, 10,000 likes. I am predicting that soon we are going to see a splinter group in the Muslim diaspora in the West, starting with Britain, because a lot of Muslims who up until now have been seeing themselves as a monolith, any criticism on Islam or Muslims, no matter how putrid or radical or extremist those Muslims are, for example, Ali Dawah's and Five Pillars, Muslims will somehow see that as an attack on themselves as Muslims. But as life becomes more and more difficult for them, they will be forced to introspect and they will say, okay, all right, we are willing to concede. We do have some bad eggs. We need to call out. Because let me assure you, up until this point, no, Muslims have not called these people out. Muslims have not called out Muhammad hijabs and their rhetoric and their aggressive rhetoric. They have not called out. Maybe out of fear that if they did it, then they will be excommunicated and they will be intimidated by these loudmouth, aggressive Muslims. But we are telling them that sooner or later, you're going to have to make a choice. Either you want to be part of British society, in which case you're going to have to separate yourself from these people, or you're going to associate yourself with these people, in which case you will be seen as them. Obviously, this was not well received by other British people because their time's up. Now people are not scared. 10 years ago, only people like me were talking about Islam and we could be ignored because, hey, he's an ex-Muslim, he's biased. But now more and more people are talking about Islam because Islam is a violent, supremacist ideology. All of you have to fight back. All of you have to push back against Islam and anyone who pushes that narrative, kind of like Mehdi Hassan. So Rupert Lowe said, this disgraceful, aggressive Islamic pressure group is now targeting John Cleese and his tour. I urge all Restore Britain members and supporters to back John. Lawrence Fox also said, resist these cavemen. Reject these attempts at dominance. Train your children to protect their birthright. F Islam. Some of you might not like this, but this reminds me of Christopher Hitchens' famous video clip. Let's watch.
Very urgent business, ladies and gentlemen, I beseech you. Resist it while you still can, and before the right to complain is taken away from you, which will be the next, you will be told you can't complain because you're Islamophobic. The term is already being introduced into the culture as if it was an accusation of race hatred or bigotry, whereas it's only the objection to the preachings of a very extreme and absolutist religion. Watch out for these symptoms. They are not just symptoms of surrender. Very often ecumenically offered to you by men of God in other robes, Christian and Jewish and smarmy ecumenical. These are the ones who will hold open the gates for the barbarians. The barbarians never take a city till someone holds the gates open for them. And it's your own preachers who will do it for you, and your own multicultural authorities who will do it for you. Resist it while you can. And if you wonder what will happen if you don't, look and see how a cricket team in Middlesex in England had to change its name by force last week because it was called and had been for years the Middlesex Crusaders. Look and see how stories about little pigs can't be taught to children in English schools anymore, lest offense be taken by the religion of peace. Resist it while you can.
He said that in 2009. He was ahead of his time. Oh, God, I miss him. I know a lot of Christians might not like him because the new atheist movement is somewhat responsible for where we are civilizationally. But I can assure you, if he were alive today, he would have been siding with Christianity and speaking up. He would have been on our side. I know that 100%. He would not have been as much of a disappointment as Richard Dawkins, whom I have always called my intellectual hero. But time is a very nasty thing. It doesn't stand still for anyone. No one can give us an absolute truth. No one can give us an absolutely correct direction. We just have to figure it out as we go forward in time. Sam Harris has also been another disappointment. He's a lot younger and he's going to be around for a long time. But he's just suffering from that Trump derangement syndrome. I just saw a thumbnail where he was saying, oh, the Democrats have a serious far left problem. Yeah, right. I think he's going to come to the Republican side at some point because that is the only sensible position to take. But whatever happens, if Western civilization has to survive, which in my heart, I genuinely believe that it will outlast this invading, barbaric, primitive ideology from the East, Islam. Then everyone has to speak up. We need more and more celebrities to come forward. John Cleese is just one of them. We need more and more celebrities to come forward and say, okay, enough is enough. Let me give you another example. Tom Cruise, who loves the United Kingdom. He always involves the United Kingdom in most of his movies. He quietly left London last year. Quietly, didn't say anything because, celebrities, they want to stay out of controversies. But he quietly left his London penthouse because an apartment next door was broken in. And then we have Ed Sheeran, who quietly said that, oh, there are no good parts left in London. There are no good pockets left in London. Why? Have the white people changed? White people are a minority in London. What's changed? So we need the support of celebrities. But in the meantime, I, as an activist, this is why I think, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I think activists are very important. I've been doing this for 10 years. I'll probably keep doing this for another 10 years because I think this civilizational narrative is only going to heat up. I'll keep doing this for another 10 years and who knows how long. As I said, time is nobody's friend. Time determines our path. Our choices play a very small role. As long as I live, of course, because it is quite possible too. Islam is not going to go down fighting. The Muslim Brotherhood right now have a policy of not engaging in violence because that would draw a lot of heat. So they've been working in the shadows for a very long time. That's what they've been doing. So they haven't been assassinating people. Yes, ordinary Muslims take things upon themselves and then they do it, but you can't tie it back to CARE or the Muslim Brotherhood or even Hizb ut-Tahrir. But they've been upping the rhetoric. But they've been pushing forward their candidates. This guy, Abdul al-Sayyid, is a full-blown Islamist. He even came out and said, I'm not a socialist. I'm a capitalist. But he quotes the Quran. He's angry that the state of Oklahoma banned Sharia. He called that Islamophobia and racism. Compare that with the Trail of Tears, or compare that with the suffering of African Americans during the period of slavery. So anyway, we need more activists and we need more A-list celebrities to come forward and talk about this destruction of Western civilization, powered by the suicide fetish that the left has.